15 gems poised to recover in 2026. The rebirth of value beneath the auction lights, a single crimson gem burns through history, once lost to time, now worth more than gold. Some call it cursed, others call it eternal. But why did it vanish for a century, only to return stronger than ever? In 2026, the gem market is shifting again, and if you miss this cycle, you might never see value the same way. Welcome to Tops. Today we unveil the 15 gems poised to recover in 2026, the rebirth of value. If this is your first journey with us, subscribe and join the hunt, because what's rising next might redefine what treasure truly means. Let's begin with number 15. Ranked 15th, Spinel, the forgotten flame that fooled kings. Spinel forms in metamorphic marble, deep in the geological crucible where heat and pressure remake limestone into treasure. In the mines of Mogok, Myanmar, those veins of marble still release transparent crystals in hues that seem internally aflame. Pinks, scarlets, even the impossible shade between red wine and sunrise. Traders along the Silk Road carried these gems through Badakhshan into Persia, where they became known as balas rubies. Persian kings set them into turbans. The Mughal emperors of India engraved verses of the Quran upon their surfaces, believing the stones themselves carried divine protection. For centuries, Spinel was not a gemstone. It was a relic of power. Then came the 19th century and the incredible eye of science. Spectroscopy and crystal analysis tore down centuries of misidentification, proving that ruby and spinel were entirely different species of mineral. The revelation was devastating. Overnight, treasures once thought priceless were recategorized as imposters. Auction prices fell. Collectors turned away. Spinel slipped quietly from thrones to drawers, from glory to footnote. Yet in 2026, the story began to turn again. The world's fascination with authenticity has reignited the forgotten flame. Collectors now seek not perfection, but truth, a gem unaltered, untreated, and honest about its origin. New deposits discovered in Mahenge, Tanzania, in 2007 have transformed the conversation. The stones from that region glow with a neon magenta hue, pure and electrifying, entirely natural. Unlike many rubies, Spinel requires no heating, no oiling, no enhancement. In a market weary of illusion, that purity has become a rare commodity of its own. Across studios in Tokyo and Milan, jewelry designers are now setting Spinel in minimalist frames, letting its geometry and inner fire speak without excess. Auction houses report record sales. Vivid red Spinels over 5 carats now command between $7,000 and $9,000 per carat, tripling their value since 2018. After centuries of confusion, the gem that once lived under a false name is finally being valued for what it truly is, a stone that carries within it both error and endurance. In museum archives, the story has found its reckoning. Inside the British Museum's catalogue of royal jewels lies a page dated 1367. It records one great balas ruby gifted to Edward, the Black Prince of England. Next to that line, a curator's pencil adds a quiet correction. Spinel, confirmed. A single annotation rewrites half a millennium of royal history. That is the fundamental nature of Spinel's revival. Its return is not driven by trend or market speculation, but by archival justice, the restoration of truth to beauty. Each reclassified stone is a small act of historical correction, a reminder that the worth of a gem does not vanish because its name changes. Spinel's flame was never extinguished. It was mislabeled. And as curators continue to re-examine the rubies of ancient crowns, the question grows sharper with every rediscovered truth. How many treasures in human history were never what we believed? And does their revelation make them less royal or more real? If this forgotten flame surprises you, share your thoughts below. In an age where truth itself feels precious, do you think authenticity can ever outshine legacy? Ranked 14th, Morganite, the return of emotional luxury. In an age obsessed with brilliance, one gem refused to compete. While others chased fire, Morganite shimmered in whispers. The color of compassion turned to crystal. Found in the same family as emerald and aquamarine, it was once dismissed as too gentle, too feminine. Yet in its calm, collectors now see what the market forgot: the strength of softness and the return of emotion as value. Discovered in the early 20th century along the coast of Madagascar, Morganite was once celebrated as a pink emerald. It belongs to the same beryl family that gave us emerald and aquamarine, yet it holds a far gentler soul. Its hue, a quiet blush between peach and rose, comes from traces of manganese that color its crystal lattice. Early specimens the size of fists were named in honor of financier J.P. Morgan, who funded geological expeditions for the American Museum of Natural History. To collectors, the name was symbolic. Wealth turned to wonder. Yet despite this illustrious beginning, Morganite faded almost as quickly as it appeared. Mid-century jewelers found it too pale for display cases lit by harsh electric bulbs. As the world entered the age of diamonds and synthetics, the pink stone disappeared into drawers, dismissed as a footnote in the beryl family's lineage. Now in 2026, its silence is ending. Amidst the noise of inflation and overstimulation, a generation of buyers has turned to subtler luxuries: pastel gemstones, natural hues, and materials that align with calm and emotional balance. Jewelry designers in Seoul, Copenhagen, and Los Angeles refer to it as the stone of gentle luxury. Its value lies not in rarity, but in resonance. When set in rose gold, Morganite's inner light glows like skin under sunrise. Human, unpretentious, and intimate. On the geological level, it remains an affordable beryl. On the psychological level, it has become something else entirely: a reflection of post-pandemic sensibility. In the wake of a crisis, people seek tenderness they can wear. Auction records from 2025 already show a 40% increase in demand for untreated Morganite over 3 carats, especially from Madagascar and Brazil. The stone has found its way back into engagement rings, a quiet protest against diamond uniformity. It is the comeback of emotional clarity in a marketplace once obsessed with spectacle. Among gem cutters, Morganite is prized for its pleochroism, the subtle shifts in color between pink and orange when viewed from different angles. Under daylight, it breathes. Under candlelight, it warms. Each cut reveals a new tone, a new temperament, almost as if the gem itself adjusts to human emotion. In that sense, its recovery is not about scarcity, but about empathy. When markets recover through sentiment rather than scarcity, we witness a rare phenomenon: the rebirth of emotional value. Morganite's resurgence proves that luxury no longer needs to shout. Sometimes the quietest stones hold the loudest truths. Under a diffused lamp, a jeweler places a polished oval of Morganite on a mirror. The gem does not blaze, it breathes. Light passes through its body as if it has lungs, expanding and contracting with each change in illumination. Unlike ruby or sapphire, it does not fight for attention, it absorbs it, softening every edge around it. That softness has become its power. In a marketplace addicted to brightness, Morganite wins by refusing to compete. Its value is not in shouting louder. It is in staying still. That is the most valid form of recovery in 2026. Not the return of noise, but the return of quiet. If this gentle revival surprises you, leave a thought below. Do you think the future of luxury belongs to brilliance or to calm? Rank 13th, Tourmaline, when color became power again. No other gemstone carries electricity like this one, not metaphorically, but literally. When heated or rubbed, tourmaline generates an electric charge strong enough to attract dust and ash. The ancients of Ceylon once used it to draw smoke from pipes, referring to it as the ash puller. Today, in a world saturated by artificial brightness, that same energy has found a new form: the return of color as truth. Tourmaline is not a single gemstone, but a spectrum of gemstones. It can be pink, green, yellow, blue, or even 2 colors at once. It grows in long, prism-like crystals, each hue shaped by the concentration of trace elements: manganese for pink, iron for blue, and copper for the electrifying glow of Peridot, the variety that changed gem history. Discovered only in the late 1980s in the Brazilian state of Paraíba, this copper-bearing tourmaline emits a glow so intense it seems to generate its own light. Under daylight, it blazes turquoise. Under artificial light, it shimmers neon green blue. The world had never seen such luminosity. By the 2000s, Peridot tourmalines reached prices once reserved for sapphires and rubies. But the fever burned too quickly. Mines collapsed, sources dwindled, and the market cooled as imitations and confusion spread. The electric gem faded into silence. Then, 2026 arrived, and with it, a new appetite for authentic rarity. Laboratory enhancement fatigue has made collectors crave stones that defy duplication. And tourmaline, with its impossible chemistry of color, has become the symbol of that craving. Auction houses in Geneva and Hong Kong now report Peridot and indicolite varieties regaining value, driven not by fashion, but by provenance. Designers from Bangkok to New York are setting slender, unheated crystals in open gold frameworks. Minimal metal, maximum glow. The message is simple. Let light do the work. In modern culture, color itself has become a form of identity, a political statement. Tourmaline's multicolored structure mirrors the complexity of human beings. Pink and green bicolor stones, known as watermelon tourmalines, are worn by artists and influencers as symbols of balance. The harmony between joy and calm, energy and restraint. In a sense, the gem's comeback isn't only geological, it's psychological. After years of austerity and neutral tones, society is ready for color again. At gem fairs in Basel, Tokyo, and Tucson, dealers describe 2026 as the year color came back. High-quality Peridot tourmalines now reach $15,000 per carat, with clean stones under 2 carats prized for rarity. But more interesting than the price is the emotion. Buyers describe the stones not as beautiful, but as alive. Tourmaline conducts more than electricity. It performs the pulse of recovery. Its value lies not just in its physical brightness, but in what that brightness represents, the human need to feel vivid again. In the late 1990s, dealers flaunted Peridot's light as spectacle. The brighter, the richer. Today, connoisseurs whisper its name in hushed tones, admiring transparency over saturation and origin over intensity. The gem, once prized for its brilliance, is now valued for its purity of glow. Its journey has turned inside out. Excess has become elegance. Novelty has become heritage. And within that inversion lies the new definition of worth, that even the most dazzling colors must fade before they can be seen again. If this electric revival surprised you, share your thoughts below. Do you believe beauty loses or gains meaning when the world finally looks at it twice? And as we move from voltage to vigilance, our next stone watches light itself. The mysterious eye that never sleeps. Chrysoberyl cat's eye, ranked 12th. Chrysoberyl cat's eye, the silent watcher of 2026. There is a gem that seems to stare back. A single slit of light runs through its body, sharp, alert, unblinking. Across centuries and civilizations, people believed that this line was alive, that it watched those who dared to own it. They called it the cat's eye. The phenomenon is real, chatoyancy, the concentration of light along parallel rudal fibers inside a crystal. When moved under a beam, the gem appears to open and close its eye, as if breathing in vision itself. Among all stones that display this effect, Chrysoberyl is the most perfect. Its fibers are microscopic, its luster is glassy, and its structure is complex enough to polish to a near metallic reflection. The result is not sparkle, it is surveillance. In Sri Lanka, miners still refer to it as kanchan, meaning shining eye. Local superstition warns that to wear one without faith is to invite misfortune, but to wear it with devotion is to be protected from evil. In ancient India, cat's eye was a guardian stone of merchants. It symbolized vigilance, helping traders see deceit before it arrived. Some carried it during sea voyages, believing its slit of light could pierce even the fog of uncertainty. In the 19th century, European collectors fell under its spell. The optical illusion fascinated naturalists. Queen Alexandra herself wore one in a brooch said to see beyond lies. However, the gem's popularity waned with the advent of modern lighting. Under fluorescent bulbs, its single band of light looked weak compared to the blaze of diamond brilliance. Cat's eye fell into obscurity, too subtle for the stage lights of the 20th century. Now, in 2026, its gaze has returned. In a world overwhelmed by filters and digital perfection, the human eye longs for sincerity, for something that looks back. Jewelers in Tokyo, Dubai, and Geneva report a renewed demand for unheated chrysoberyl cat's eyes, characterized by strong centered bands. Auction houses report prices climbing by 30% since 2023, driven by collectors who view it as a symbol of intuition and awareness. The gem's meaning has evolved. It is no longer about superstition, but about perception, the ability to see clearly in a world that is often blurred. Geologically, chrysoberyl is formed in pegmatitic veins, rich in beryllium and aluminum. The finest cat's eyes come from Ratnapura, Sri Lanka, and Orissa, India, and are often found as pale yellow or green cabochons. Under a single light source, the band sharpens into a silver-white line that slices the stone in half. Move it once, and the line glides across the surface like a pupil adjusting to light. It is an illusion that appears to be sentient. In fine jewelry, cat's eye is never faceted. It is carved into smooth domes that amplify the living streak. When set in gold, its surface reflects like the eye of a nocturnal creature. To some, it is unsettling. To others, hypnotic. Either way, the stone demands attention, not admiration. Its comeback in 2026 reflects a more profound social undercurrent, the return of watchfulness in an era of deception. Cat's eye does not dazzle, it observes, and in that quiet observation, it has regained its power. In the final shot, the gem rests under a single beam of light. The band narrows, then disappears. Not extinguished, just hidden, waiting for movement. Even when unseen, it watches. No proclamation, no epilogue. Only the sense that something ancient is still awake beneath the surface of gold. And that is how chrysoberyl recovers. Not by shouting, but by reminding the world that seeing is also a form of silence. If this watchful stone intrigues you, share your thoughts below. In a world full of noise, do you think awareness is the rarest gem of all? And as we leave the realm of vision and turn toward renewal itself, our next gem rises from the green veins of the earth, the symbol of rebirth in color and culture. Peridot, ranked 11th. Peridot, the green heart of 2026 luxury. When the earth had finished burning, Peridot was his first breath, forged in the last fires of creation, and sometimes carried by falling stars. It bridges heaven and magma alike. Ancient Egyptians called it the gem of the sun, yet its glow feels lunar, gentle, forgiving, alive. To miners, it was the stone of renewal. To traders of 2026, it is the color of recovery itself, the reminder that even the earth needs to heal. Unlike other stones that borrow their beauty from trace impurities, Peridot's color is its essence. Every shade of olive, lime, and chartreuse comes from iron, the same element that gives blood its red and earth its core. In that sense, Peridot isn't just a gem, it's the planet itself crystallized. For millennia, Peridot shimmered across civilizations as a symbol of rebirth. Centuries later, crusaders carried them home to Europe, setting them into church reliquaries and bishops' rings. To medieval alchemists, Peridot was the antidote to darkness, a stone of renewal, capable of cleansing the heart and sharpening the mind. However, by the time of the Industrial Age, its myth had faded. Too familiar, too soft in tone, Peridot lost its place beside sapphire and ruby. Its light, once divine, became decorative. In 2026, that judgment is being rewritten. As the luxury world shifts toward sustainability and ethical sourcing, Peridot has become a green emblem of conscience. It requires no heating, no enhancement, and is mined in regions where transparency can be verified. From Pakistan's Kashmir Ranges to the San Carlos Apache Reservation in Arizona. Jewelers now favor it not for rarity, but for clarity. Its unmistakable, honest green. Designers describe it as the gem of real light, a color that refuses to imitate anything else. In Copenhagen and Kyoto, Minimalist studios are pairing peridot with recycled gold and silver, creating jewels that breathe rather than dazzle. This aesthetic, calm, elemental, and sustainable, has pushed peridot into the spotlight of 2026's green luxury movement. Market data reflects this quiet resurgence. Prices of fine, eye-clean peridot above 10 carats have nearly doubled since 2019, driven by boutique collectors and eco-conscious buyers. More importantly, the gem has returned to cultural conversation, featured in design exhibitions that merge geology with philosophy. Its message is simple. Renewal is not about youth, but about endurance. Peridot's glow is also extraterrestrial. Tiny fragments have been found in palisite meteorites, crystals that once drifted through space before falling to Earth. Those cosmic olivines share the same composition as the stones mined in volcanic rock, linking the depths of Earth to the cold of the cosmos. A reminder that rebirth in nature is a cycle without boundaries. In jewelry, peridot is cut into gentle ovals or elongated cushions, often in open-back settings that let light travel through its green body like sunlight through leaves. It is a gem that doesn't hide its inclusions. It celebrates them, like veins on a living leaf. Peridot, the gem of the sun, has come full circle. From Earth's mantle to empire, from ornament to conscience. Its recovery is not a comeback, it is a return to purpose. And as its color deepens under morning light, it speaks the quiet truth of all renewal. What endures is not what changes most, but what remains alive enough to change again. If this story of green fire inspired you, share your thoughts below. Do you think the true luxury of 2026 will be rarity or responsibility? And as we move from the calm of renewal to the depths of time, our next gem is not born on Earth at all. It fell from the sky. Amber, the time frozen in gold. Ranked 10th. Amber, the memory of the Earth. Long before the first human cut a gem, a drop of tree resin began its slow descent toward eternity. It fell, caught a speck of dust, a trapped wing, a fragment of life, and hardened. That moment, sealed in sunlight, became amber. Not a stone at all, but the memory of time, preserved in gold. Amber is ancient sap, organic, not mineral, that has been fossilized over tens of millions of years. It forms when resin from prehistoric trees is buried under sediment, then polymerized through pressure and heat. The result is a material neither alive nor dead, a bridge between biology and geology. Within its honeyed depths, air bubbles still breathe. Wings of extinct insects rest as if waiting to move. The world's oldest jewelry was carved from amber. Archaeologists have unearthed beads over 12,000 years old in Baltic graves, tokens of protection and passage. In ancient Greek and Roman civilizations, it was known as electron, from which the word electricity was derived, because when rubbed, amber attracted straw and ash through static charge. To the ancients, this invisible pull was the breath of the gods. In China, amber was called hupo, the soul of the tiger. It was burned as incense to calm spirits and placed in tombs to preserve peace in the afterlife. In Viking culture, it symbolized sunlight captured from the sea. Across civilizations, amber was not just an ornament, it was memory crystallized. But as modern gemology advanced, amber's value faded. It was too soft, too organic, too unpredictable. The 20th century demanded precision and hardness, qualities amber could not offer. Plastic imitations flooded markets, and genuine amber became a curiosity rather than a treasure. Then came 2026, and with it, a strange irony. As technology tried to preserve everything digitally, humanity began to crave physical memory again. In a world obsessed with data permanence, amber's ancient stillness feels almost sacred. Collectors are returning to it, not as a gemstone, but as a time capsule of authenticity. Museums report surges in demand for Baltic amber, featuring visible inclusions, ancient insects, leaves, and even air bubbles, dated to the Eocene epoch. Designers now integrate amber into sculptural jewelry, combining fossilized resin with reclaimed metals. The trend has been dubbed organic legacy luxury, At auction, rare Dominican ambers with blue fluorescence under UV light fetch $10,000 per piece, and Burmese amber with intact inclusions is being studied alongside meteorite samples for paleobiological data. The line between science, art, and commerce has blurred, and amber thrives in that intersection. It glows not to dazzle, but to remind. Inside every piece lies a moment that refused to decay, a gesture of resistance against time itself. The color, golden, honey, cognac, cherry, is the spectrum of nostalgia. When light passes through, the trapped air burns briefly, and the illusion of motion returns. For a second, the insect seems to move. The resin drop appears to fall again. That is amber's trick. It doesn't freeze time, it replays it. Amber's power lies not in preserving the past, but in letting it breathe again. In every golden piece, time does not end. It reverses. If this golden memory intrigued you, leave a comment below. In a world racing forward, do you think the future will belong to what we remember or to what we forget? And as we move from time preserved to time exhausted, our next gem is born of scarcity itself. A violet flame from the last mines of Tanzania. Tanzanite. Ranked 9th, Tanzanite, the rarest light on Earth. The Earth screamed once, and blue was born. That sound, frozen in crystal, became Tanzanite, a gem that carries the echo of creation. Born in one place on Earth, it is the youngest color in the gem kingdom. Its value is not rarity alone, but the miracle of timing, when lightning met silence. In 1967, lightning struck the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro, igniting wildfires that scorched the plains near Marilani, Tanzania. When the smoke cleared, shepherds found the ground glittering with blue stones unlike anything they had ever seen. Gemologists later identified them as a new variety of zoisite, whose color was caused by traces of vanadium. Tiffany and Company would name the gem Tanzanite for the country that birthed it, and the name alone became legend. Within a few years, Tanzanite had replaced sapphire in Western jewelry houses. Its pleochroism, the ability to show blue, violet, and red depending on the light, enchanted designers. Its rarity, confined to a single 7-kilometer strip of land, made it irresistible to collectors. For a brief moment, it was the color of modern luxury, the gemstone of transition, discovery, and twilight. But as quickly as it rose, the world began to take it for granted. Mining expanded deeper, deposits thinned, and synthetic imitations flooded the market. By the 2010s, the Tanzanian government declared it a national restricted gemstone, banning export of rough material to protect its heritage. Still, the supply dwindled, and with each ton of earth removed, the story neared its end. In 2026, Tanzanite is no longer the new gem, it is the last gem. The Marilani mines are projected to be exhausted within a generation. For collectors, that scarcity has transformed from loss into reverence. Auction houses now treat Tanzanite pieces not as fashion, but as farewell. Unheated stones above 10 carats have doubled in value since 2020, while museum curators race to secure specimens before the mines close. What makes Tanzanite extraordinary is not only its color, but its fragility, both geological and symbolic. It changes hue under different lights, mirroring human perception itself. Under daylight, it glows blue. Under tungsten, it deepens to violet, as if shifting between hope and melancholy. No other gem captures time's duality so perfectly: birth and decline, beauty and disappearance. To the Maasai people of northern Tanzania, Tanzanite is a stone of new beginnings. Traditionally gifted to mothers after childbirth, it symbolizes life emerging from hardship, blue for the sky, purple for healing. In that ritualistic sense, long overlooked, it has begun to re-emerge in global consciousness. As fashion moves toward cultural authenticity and storytelling, Tanzanite's identity has expanded beyond jewelry. It has become a metaphor for what is finite and therefore sacred. In a century of infinite production, its rarity feels human again. Every remaining piece of Tanzanite carries not only light, but time itself running out. Its recovery in 2026 isn't about market momentum. It's about rediscovering impermanence as a value. At the Marilani mine, dusk falls. The shafts close one by one. Miners leave, carrying only dust on their boots. The violet light in the hills begins to dim, as if the earth itself were sighing. In the empty tunnels, the last pieces of Tanzanite sleep beneath the rock, unseen, unmined, perhaps never to be found. And that is where its value now lives, in the space left behind. Some lights do not fade because they fail. They fade because they are complete. If this vanishing light moved you, share your thoughts below. In a world obsessed with abundance, do you think rarity is the only truth that still shines? And as the last light fades, we turn to a gem that bridges identity and expression. The colors of fire reborn in unity. Garnet, ranked 8th. Garnet, when color found its voice. For centuries, garnet was taken for granted, a dark red spark buried in forgotten jewelry boxes, a footnote beside the fame of ruby. But in 2026, the world is finally seeing it for what it truly is, a prism, not a pigment. The name garnet doesn't belong to one mineral, but a family of many: spessartine, almandine, savorite, grossular, and more, each born from different geologic stories. Some form in volcanic rock, while others form in metamorphic schists. Their colors are shaped by iron, manganese, or chromium. Together, they embody what gemologists now refer to as the spectrum of identity. In the late 19th century, garnets adorned Victorian mourning jewelry, symbolizing blood and remembrance. Its deep red tones echoed emotion, but also trapped it. As diamonds and rubies took the global stage, garnet's reputation dimmed to that of a common stone. By the 1990s, it was largely excluded from fine jewelry, sold in bulk as souvenir gems, until the earth itself revealed new colors. In Namibia, fiery orange spessartine emerged from desert mines, vivid, electric, alive. In Tanzania and Kenya, deposits of savorite garnet, a chrome-green variety discovered by Campbell Bridges in 1967, began to revolutionize the industry. Here was the paradox. A gem once dismissed as ordinary now appeared in colors rivaling topaz, emerald, and sapphire. In 2026, this rediscovery has become a movement of perception. The jewelry world, tired of singular definitions of beauty, has come to embrace garnet's diversity as a metaphor for beauty. Brands once loyal to uniform perfection now celebrate variety. Orange spessartine symbolizes creativity, green savorite represents resilience, and purple-pink rhodolite embodies introspection. Designers in Paris, Mumbai, and Seoul describe garnet as the democrat of color, a gemstone family where difference is not deviation, but design. Market-wise, fine savorites from Kenya and Tanzania are now achieving $8,000 to $10,000 per carat, while spessartines with deep mandarin tones have doubled in value since 2021. Yet garnet's revival is not about price, it is about representation. Every hue of garnet corresponds to a story, a locality, a culture, a personal reflection. In an age defined by individuality, this gemstone mirrors the human condition. Collectors now speak of garnet collections as portraits rather than possessions, a red spessartine for passion, a green savorite for growth, a color change garnet for complexity. In this mosaic of hues, people see themselves, not as one shade, but as many. For centuries, ruby defined the language of desire. Now garnet redefines it as diversity. At gem fairs in Basel and Hong Kong, curators describe the garnet tables as the most visited exhibits. Visitors gather not around rarity, but around color. A quiet revolution that began when the industry realized that beauty could no longer be standardized. No two colors match. No two shapes reflect the same light. Yet together, they form a spectrum, unified not by similarity, but by coexistence. In 2026, this is what value looks like. Not the elimination of difference, but its illumination. Garnet no longer imitates ruby. It represents all the rubies that were left out. And in that quiet defiance, the gem that once stood for mourning now stands for meaning. If this revolution of color speaks to you, share your thoughts below. In a world chasing perfection, Do you think beauty now belongs to diversity? And as the colors converge into green fire, our next gem carries not individuality, but inheritance. A symbol of dynasties reborn. Jadeite. Ranked 7th. Jadeite, the legacy that never died. Some gemstones shine for their beauty and others for their rarity. Jadeite does not glitter, it commands. For more than 2,000 years, jade has been the language of continuity in Asia. Not just a gem, but a civilization's heartbeat. Yet few realize that what the world now calls jade actually divides into two distinct types. Nephrite, the softer, milky green stone of ancient China, and jadeite, the rarer crystalline variety found deep in the mountains of northern Myanmar. It is jadeite, translucent, vivid, unaltered, that built empires, sealed dynasties, and defined immortality. In the 18th century, when caravans brought Burmese jadeite to the Qing court, the color struck like a revelation. The Empress Dowager Cixie's collection alone reshaped the gemstone hierarchy. Emeralds and rubies were demoted to jewels of adornment. Jadeite became a virtue. To wear it was not a matter of fashion, it was a matter of legitimacy. Its most prized hue, the imperial green, was believed to connect the earthly and divine, its translucence representing purity of rule. By the late 20th century, however, the meaning of jadeite had fractured. Speculative trading and counterfeit treatments flooded the markets. Type B and Type C jades, bleached, dyed, or impregnated, diluted centuries of heritage. The gem that once symbolized truth became a victim of imitation. Collectors turned cautious. The younger generation turned away. But in 2026, the wheel has turned again. A quiet renaissance is emerging, one that values authenticity over appearance. High-end auctions in Hong Kong and Singapore now emphasize Type A jadeite. Stones completely natural, untreated, verified through modern spectroscopy. These are not marketed as new luxury, but as ancestral trust, artifacts that outlast fashion cycles. At the same time, digital transparency and blockchain tracking have made provenance traceable again. What once relied on verbal promise is now backed by data, returning confidence to a shaken market. Fine Type A jadeite bangles have regained prices exceeding $1 million, while even smaller cabochons command a premium value due to their purity of origin. Yet the revival of jadeite is not just an economic phenomenon. Across Asia, artisans are reinterpreting jade not as a relic, but as a dialogue. In Taipei and Kyoto, sculptors carve minimalist pendants. In Bangkok and Seoul, designers set jade in titanium and wood. The stone, once frozen in imperial tradition, now speaks in the language of modern form, heritage reborn through evolution. Culturally, jadeite continues to embody virtue through its enduring qualities. In Chinese philosophy, its texture is softness with strength, ru zhong dai gang, gentleness concealing power. In Burmese lore, it bridges life and death, carried by the living, buried with the departed. And in 2026, as societies re-examine legacy and inheritance, jadeite has returned as a question, not an answer. What is the value of continuity in an age of constant change? In a museum in Hong Kong, a jade bangle glows softly under sterile light. Its surface bears no facets, no flash, only time. Beside it, a modern sculptor runs her hand over a raw jadeite boulder, the veins of green running like rivers through stone. Different centuries, same silence, same heartbeat. Jadeite does not recover by changing, it recovers by remembering. In a world obsessed with newness, its permanence is the rebellion. If this imperial awakening fascinates you, share your thoughts below. In your view, does heritage survive only through preservation or through reinvention? Yet even faith must dissolve. Stone gives way to water. Devotion learns reflection. In that breath between empire and ocean, Aquamarine awakens. The sea that learns. Ranked 6th, Aquamarine, the calm that endures. After centuries of carved devotion, the earth exhaled, and water remembered how to shine. Aquamarine was born from that breath, a gem of truth distilled from storm and salt. To sailors, it was safety. To mystics, it was clarity made visible. Today, as markets are overwhelmed by excess, this gem returns like a reflection itself, reminding us that transparency is a kind of courage. Formed in the veins of granite and pegmatite, it is the blue beryl, sibling to emerald yet opposite in temperament. Where emerald fractures under tension, aquamarine endures in calm. Its name, from Latin aqua marina, water of the sea, has long symbolized the dialogue between clarity and depth. In ancient Rome, sailors carried aquamarine amulets carved with Poseidon's trident, believing it would still the waves and guide them home. In medieval Europe, it was called the mirror of prophets, used for divination because its transparency was said to reveal truth when the mind was clear. Even in modern times, divers and pilots wear it not for superstition, but for its calm blue, a psychological anchor in turbulence. Yet like still water, aquamarine was often overlooked. In the 20th century, it became the polite gem, gentle, accessible, overshadowed by louder stones. Collectors sought intensity, not serenity, but the 2020s have rewritten the emotional grammar of luxury. In 2026, aquamarine has returned not as an accessory, but as a symbol of balance. In an age of constant noise, digital, emotional, environmental, the quiet gem has become a refuge. Its value now lies not in rarity, but in resonance. Collectors speak of it as breathing space in stone. Auction records confirm its rise. Fine, untreated Santa Maria aquamarines from Brazil now fetch over $7,000 per carat, with natural pastel varieties from Pakistan and Nigeria showing renewed demand. Designers in Scandinavia and Japan have made it central to the silent luxury aesthetic. Jewelry that doesn't demand attention, but restores equilibrium. It's not a coincidence. In the psychology of color, blue-green calms the pulse, lowers anxiety, and creates a sense of expansion. The gem's comeback also parallels a more profound cultural truth. Our collective desire to slow down. As climate, economy, and technology accelerate beyond comprehension, the idea of stillness has become aspirational. Aquamarine embodies that ideal. Transparent yet resilient, soft yet unbreakable. In fine jewelry, cutters favor long emerald cuts that emphasize clarity over sparkle. The best stones glow like frozen sea air, a light that feels inhaled rather than reflected. And when worn, aquamarine doesn't shout its presence, it steadies it. In 2026, luxury is no longer about spectacle, it's about recovery. Aquamarine's gentle glow reminds us that calm is not emptiness, it's endurance in motion. It's the pause that lets the world begin again. A diver descends through blue water. Light flickers across her wrist. An aquamarine pendant. Above, waves rage. Below, silence expands. The stone refracts the sunlight into thin threads like breath dissolving into the sea. It does not resist the storm. It outlasts it. In that moment of suspension, everything slows. And for a brief instant, clarity becomes its own form of survival. If this calm gem speaks to you, share your thoughts below. In a world obsessed with speed, do you think peace has become the rarest form of luxury? Stillness breeds vision. In calm depths, light bends for the first time, seeking reason, seeking truth. That bending gives birth to Sphene, the prism of thought. Ranked fifth, Sphene. When imperfection created brilliance, light is supposed to reveal things, but Sphene reveals light itself. To the untrained eye, it may look like an olive-green crystal, modest, unassuming, but under magnification, its fire erupts into impossible color. Flashes of red, yellow, and green so intense they outshine diamond's dispersion. Gemologists call it titanite, for the titanium within. Collectors call it Sphene, from the Greek sphenos. Wedge, describing its sharp crystal form. Yet for centuries it was ignored. Too soft for everyday wear, too rare in large sizes, too misunderstood in beauty. While diamond became the measure of brilliance, Sphene remained in obscurity, a gem of optical excess hidden behind practical limits. That obscurity is ending. In 2026, as technology teaches us to see differently, through spectral imaging, augmented vision, and deep microscopy. The gem world has rediscovered Sphene not as jewelry, but as a lesson. Its fire is not decoration. It is the science of perception itself. When light enters Sphene, it slows, bends, and splits violently. Its refractive index exceeds that of sapphire and rivals diamond. But with a twist, it disperses light unevenly, scattering it into asymmetric bursts. Under daylight, the gem looks alive, its colors flickering like liquid rainbows. Under candlelight, it burns gold. It's as if every Sphene holds a secret spectrum. The truth that brilliance is never singular. Most of the world's finest specimens come from Madagascar, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, where miners describe it as the gem that sleeps until the sun finds it. Cutters face a paradox. If they shape it too roughly, the stone dulls. If too finely, it fractures. Each finished Sphene is an act of precision bordering on devotion. Market-wise, fine clean stones over 3 carats now command over $5,000 per carat. Not because of hype, but because there is no replacement. Synthetic alternatives fail to reproduce its chaotic light. For scientists, Sphene represents controlled imperfection, the kind of disorder that makes beauty possible. In 2026, that idea resonates far beyond the realm of gemology. In art, design, and even psychology, people are relearning how to value asymmetry, nuance, and authenticity. Sphene has become the metaphorical stone of perception, the prism through which value itself is refracted. Collectors and designers in Tokyo, Berlin, and Paris now use Sphene in limited edition pieces titled Fragments of Light. They speak of it as the gem for those who see differently. Its return is not market-driven, but philosophical, a recovery of curiosity. It is fitting that a gem once dismissed for imperfection now defines perfection itself. Its brilliance is not stable, not predictable, it moves. And in that movement, Sphene reveals what every era forgets, that to see is not to capture, but to chase. Sphene's brilliance exists only because of impermanence, the moment when perception meets movement. That is its truth. What we see is never still. If this prism of light fascinates you, share your thoughts below. In a world blinded by clarity, do you think imperfection is the only way to see truly? But knowledge divides what it studies. Truth splits, and color begins to choose its side. In that paradox lives Alexandrite, the gem of conscious change. Ranked 4th, Alexandrite, the color that thinks. Most stones reveal themselves under light. This one decides who it wants to be. Alexandrite changes not by accident, but by will, a gem that argues with the sun. In it lies the philosophy of duality, that truth depends on when you choose to see. In 2026, its paradox becomes its power once again. To look at it once is to see green. To look again is to see red. And to understand it is to realize that truth itself depends on the light. Discovered in the Ural Mountains of Russia in the 1830s, Alexandrite was named after Tsar Alexander II, the future emperor. Its colors, green by day, red by lamplight, mirrored the hues of Imperial Russia's flag, and for a time it became a symbol of national destiny. Miners called it emerald by day, ruby by night. Jewelers called it a miracle. The secret lies in its chemistry. Chromium within Chrysoberyl, the same element that colors emerald, causes extreme pleochroism. Under daylight's blue spectrum, the gem turns a forest green. Under incandescent yellow, it becomes crimson. It is a stone that changes not itself, but our perception of it. In the 19th century, Alexandrite's rarity made it a mythic gem. Then the Ural mines ran dry. New deposits appeared in Sri Lanka, Brazil, and Tanzania, but none matched the saturation or dramatic shift of the Russian originals. By the late 20th century, synthetic versions had blurred the line between nature and invention. Collectors turned away. Alexandrite, the gem of contradiction, vanished into its own metaphor. But in 2026, the paradox returns. And this time, it makes sense. In a world defined by fluid identity and shifting truths, Alexandrite has become the gemstone of perception itself. Auction houses describe their comeback as the return of dual value, not just financial, but philosophical. Fine natural stones with vivid color change, especially those showing a sharp green to red shift, now command $20,000 to $40,000 per carat, eclipsing sapphire in per carat value. Collectors in Tokyo, Paris, and Geneva refer to it as the thinking gem, while contemporary designers utilize it to explore balance and identity. One sculptor in Kyoto calls her Alexandrite line light in disagreement. She says, "When people ask what color it is, I say, that depends on how honest you are." In the jewelry world of 2026, Alexandrite's duality resonates deeply. Green for clarity, red for passion. The mind and the heart in constant conversation. Its very existence defies absolutes. Where the diamond represents certainty, Alexandrite represents awareness. For gem cutters, it is notoriously difficult. Every angle reveals a different hue. To maximize the shift, they must align the crystal axes with light's dual paths. A process that requires patience, intuition, and acceptance of the fact that perfection is not possible. That may be the point. Alexandrite is not about control. It's about coexistence. Its comeback marks a cultural evolution, from which color is real to both are, from choosing a side to seeing both sides clearly. In that acceptance lies its rebirth. Because what the world now values most, in gems, in people, in truth, is the ability to change without losing essence. If this shape-shifting gem intrigues you, share your thoughts below. In a world of shifting truths, do you believe beauty lies in what changes or what remains? When contradiction grows weary, harmony waits. Between flame and calm, between sunrise and dusk, the balance breathes. Padparadscha sapphire, light at peace with itself. Ranked third, Padparadscha, when dawn meets dusk. Between pink and orange lies a color that defies language. It is not coral, not sunset, not flame, but something in between. The ancient Sinhalese had a word for it. Padparadscha, meaning lotus blossom. For centuries, sapphires ruled the blue. But in the riverbeds of Sri Lanka, miners occasionally found something else. Stones that held the warmth of dawn and the calm of dusk in the same breath. Too rare to categorize, too beautiful to describe, they became the bridge between opposites. Padparadscha is a sapphire, yes, a corundum like its blue and pink relatives. But its color is an anomaly, a delicate balance of chromium and iron that creates a spectrum the eye reads as both warm and cool. Every facet glows differently depending on the light. Pink at sunrise, orange by candlelight, peach at dusk. To gemologists, it is the most unstable sapphire. To poets, the most complete. In Buddhist philosophy, the lotus symbolizes purity born from imperfection, the bloom that rises unstained from mud. Padparadscha shares that paradox. It embodies serenity and struggle, a color that seems to exist only for a few minutes each day, just as the sun crosses the horizon. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, Sri Lankan kings and European traders revered it like a myth. When Princess Eugenie of France received a Padparadscha ring, she referred to it as the color that heals. Yet for decades, gem dealers struggled to define it. Too pink, it became a pink sapphire. Too orange, classified as fancy corundum. Its beauty, lying in between, was its curse. Now in 2026, that curse has become its strength. In an age of extremes, noise and silence, chaos and clarity, Padparadscha represents the middle way. Designers in Paris, Seoul, and Singapore refer to it as the gemstone of emotional equilibrium. Collectors see in it a metaphor for maturity, the recognition that truth often lives between two colors, not within one. Market-wise, fine, unheated Padparadschas from Sri Lanka and Madagascar now achieve $30,000 to $50,000 per carat, surpassing many blue sapphires. But the value is not just about carat or clarity, it's about tone and harmony. The closer the balance between pink and orange, the higher the reverence. In jewelry, it's often paired with rose gold or platinum to preserve neutrality, neither too warm nor too cold. When light moves across its surface, it doesn't flash, it breathes. That breath, that pause between hues, is what makes it unforgettable. In 2026, this rare sapphire has become the symbol of human recalibration. After chaos, after duality, after years of extremes, a quiet return to balance. If this color between worlds speaks to you, leave your thoughts below. In a time of division, do you think balance is the rarest beauty of all? Yet harmony cannot stay in the air forever. It seeks ground, history, and endurance. What was balance becomes patience. Light choosing to stay, not pass. Thus endures emerald, green memory of time. Ranked second. Emerald. Beauty that never forgets. Every gem records time, but emerald records memory. Unlike the diamond, born in fire, the emerald grows in water and pressure, a paradox of fragility and endurance. Each crystal forms when beryllium meets chromium in hydrothermal veins, deep beneath continents that once collided. Inside every green fracture is history, movement, heat, silence. Ancient civilizations called it a window of the gods. For the Egyptians, emerald was the promise of rebirth. Cleopatra claimed entire mines in Upper Egypt to secure her monopoly on immortality. For the Incas of Colombia, it was the blood of the earth, traded for gold, yet never equaled by it. The Spanish conquistadors who discovered the Muso and Chivor mines in the 16th century were blinded by its color. A green so deep it seemed to absorb thought. They mined it for thrones and crowns, for cathedrals and empire. But what they could not mine was its soul, the inclusions, the jardine, tiny moss-like fractures that became the very proof of authenticity. In gemology, no emerald is flawless. Each one carries its wounds visibly, like a confession. And perhaps that is why it endures, because beauty without memory fades. In the 20th century, Colombian emeralds ruled unchallenged. Then a quiet rival rose from the African continent, Zambia. Its stones, cooler in hue, cleaner in body, reflected a new aesthetic, discipline over drama. For decades, markets have been split along emotion, Colombia for passion, Zambia for precision. But in 2026, the two have converged. Collectors now prize dual provenance, not competition. Zambian emeralds, cut with Colombian softness, embody global balance, a world learning to reconcile past and present. Auction houses like Christie's and Sotheby's have recorded record sales. A 17-carat Zambian gem sold for $1.2 million, while a Colombian trapiche, a six-armed crystal revealing Earth's geometry, became a museum centerpiece. Yet the market revival is not about price, it's about perspective. In 2026, transparency is not flawlessness, it's honesty. Emerald's inclusions are no longer viewed as defects, but rather as narrative signatures. They remind collectors that value lies not in purity, but in persistence. Geologically, emerald is unstable. Optically, it is mesmerizing. Its unique refractive behavior lets it remember light, scattering photons deep within instead of reflecting them outward. That's why its green seems alive even in darkness. Spiritually, it represents clarity through endurance. In modern psychology, green is the color of restoration. Looking at an emerald is akin to resting one's vision. In economic cycles, it mirrors the same. Markets fall, adapt, then rise. Scarred, but wiser. Emerald's return in 2026 is not a comeback. It's a reminder that resilience does not erase damage, it transforms it. Under the microscope, a Colombian emerald glows. Inside, a network of fine fractures, delicate as roots, glimmers with faint gold. Every crack is a line of time. Every imperfection, a trace of light that never left. If this gem of memory moves you, share your thoughts below. In a world that worships perfection, do you think scars can still hold value? But memory, too, must ignite again. Beneath the calm of endurance burns the oldest desire, the pulse that began it all. Ruby, the heart of fire. In first place, ruby, where fire never dies. Every civilization has a story of a stone that bleeds. For most of history, that stone was ruby. Its color was never just red, it was life itself. In Sanskrit, it was known as Ratnaraj, meaning king of gems. In ancient Burma, warriors wore rubies under their skin, believing they would make them invincible. In medieval Europe, it symbolized the unbroken will of the heart. Across centuries, one truth persisted. Wherever humans sought meaning, ruby was the measure of passion. Its power lies in its chemistry. Corundum infused with chromium, which absorbs light in the green and blue spectrum, leaving only the red, pure, unfiltered vitality. That same trace element is what gives ruby its fluorescence, its pulse. Under sunlight, it glows. Under ultraviolet, it burns. For over 800 years, Mogok, Myanmar, was the world's center of gemstone production. From its marble hills came the pigeon's blood, a red so deep it seemed to generate its own light. Kings taxed it as currency, temples enshrined it as a relic. In 1886, British colonizers referred to Mogok as the Valley of Rubies, and yet even they could not comprehend its depth. Every stone carried a myth that those glowing rubies were tears of dragons, hardened over centuries of sleep. But fire moves, and in the 21st century, as Mogok's veins thinned, a new flame rose in Mozambique. Unlike Burma's gentle fluorescence, these African rubies burned with clarity, brighter, cleaner, defiant. Some dismissed them as too modern. Others saw them as evolution. In 2026, the two flames finally coexist. The collector's world no longer speaks of origin wars but of energy. Mogok for soul, Mozambique for strength. One whispers, the other roars. Together they define ruby's rebirth, not as nostalgia, but as resurgence. At auctions, unheated rubies of fine saturation now sell for over $1.5 million per carat. Yet beyond markets and carats, ruby's actual value is symbolic. In an age of digital coldness, it reawakens the human warmth we forgot to feel. Designers in Bangkok, Milan, and Kyoto refer to it as the emotional core of the gemstone world. To gem cutters, ruby is merciless. It resists tools, splinters under heat, and reveals its brilliance only when edges are risked, just like life itself. A flawless ruby is almost mythic. Most carry silk inclusions that scatter light softly, like breath trapped in stone. And therein lies its perfection, imperfection with heartbeat. A ruby without fracture is silent. A ruby with silk lives. In philosophy, red has long been associated with presence. To see red is to feel time itself. Not memory, not anticipation, but now. That is why ruby remains the final color of the spectrum, the last before darkness, the first of flame. In 2026, as value shifts from possession to emotion, ruby stands not as a gem, but as a mirror. It asks no price, only recognition. It is not the stone of wealth, but of awakening. If this final flame moved you, leave your thoughts below. In a world of fading brilliance, what kind of light would you choose to keep? As the dust of centuries settles, one truth remains. Value is never lost. It only waits to be rediscovered. From stones once forgotten to those reborn in fire, each gem we've seen today reminds us. Rarity isn't about price, it's about survival, patience, and the stories that refuse to fade. So the next time you hold a gemstone, ask yourself, are you looking at luxury or at a fragment of time still learning how to shine? This has been Tops. Thank you for joining this journey through the rebirth of value. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because the next chapter of our gem world may be even rarer than the last. Until then, keep your eyes open. The subsequent discovery might already be waiting beneath your feet.